If you were checking out the video from yesterday in regards to how terrible, atrocious the Marvels has been for the MCU, we got to get up to speed on what Wish has done, because oh my god, they expedited that process. And this is going to be Disney Studios, okay? Maybe not Disney in general, because on a dollars and cents perspective, the Marvels is going to cost the company more money. But as for return on investment, remember, there's a production budget of $200 million for Wish. It's going to end up costing, on a return basis, Disney Studios far more than that. Happy 100th anniversary, guys, because we got the dailies and we got confirmation on all this stuff, and it's really terrible, okay? Like, it hasn't lost theaters yet. It's about to, because you take a look over, the Thanksgiving weekend, and it got propped up, sort of. It still ended up finishing third, in a pretty distant third, all said and done, even with a couple of instances of creative accounting. But, the first Monday comes in, and it's already in 6 digits. Hasn't lost the theater. Only pulling in $191, not even a full week into release. 6 days in theaters. Guys, it's going to be in tough. Now, I'm sure it's going to rebound, and it's probably going to end up hitting 7 digits. I would hope so. Like, I'm never pulling for anything specifically to fail, unless, of course, there's so much toxic marketing that comes out beforehand where they're actively hating on the fan base and they're trying to trigger them into the theaters. It's like, that's not going to work. You're just going to drive people away. I hope that Wish was good. I hoped that the Marvels was going to be good. I want entertainment to be great for the people who want to consume it. I don't ever want to be doing this stuff going, oh my god, just take a look at that split, okay? And the fact that domestic audiences have completely and totally tuned out to this stuff, and it's only going to be, swept off the board by what's going to be coming up with the Christmas offering at the theaters. It's like, it's done, man. This thing, obviously, it's not going to be as bad as Strange World, but given the fact that it's also in the exact same sentence as that, and well, not quite as steep of a drop off in its first Monday, but the competition with the World Cup that's going on right now, and the rebound was just not there at all, and then it just eventually got ushered out of theaters. But I almost feel bad for those places that had a contract in there that they couldn't dump 600 theaters. It took them all the way until 2 weeks into its theatrical release. But again, this was supposed to be the anomaly, not setting the norm. But I still anticipate that Wish is ultimately going to do better than Strange Worlds, given the fact that, it was in theaters, and it was, at least somewhat profitable before it completely and totally fell off a cliff all the way for, 40 days, 45-day release window. That's when we can really tell, because then it just starts to trickle at the end, then it heads into the dollar theaters, and then it's all done and dusted by then, right? So Strange World probably still going to hold that rusted crown for Disney. But what about Encanto? What about Encanto from 2021, okay? Even with all of the different restrictions that were on right there, can we play Spot the Dud along here? Okay, like Wednesday dropping down, that's a shade under $1 million, okay? Like, that's not all that bad, but just taking a look at something comparable, like, it took them 2 weeks. It took them 2 weeks to hit that $700,000 threshold that Wish is at, not even a week after. Like, that is super tough, man. Disney's bleeding. Disney is leaking support. It's lost families, and well, once again, the studios are writing about it. Now, this isn't quite, the front page cover story that they dropped a couple of weeks ago from Variety, but the fact that they're writing about this and saying that Wish is the latest crack in the studio's once invincible armor, I would argue that started a while back, but then again, I don't write for Variety and have my, talking points provided to me from the studio, so let's see what they say. Or rather, don't say. Wish misfired in its opening weekend, extending Disney's bleak box office fortunes. Yeah, they don't have any other, bullets left in the chamber. They've fired everything, and there's one bright spot that still underperformed what it should have. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is the only film that they're releasing this year that is going to turn a substantial, undeniable profit. But what about Elemental? Elemental might have broke even, but it still probably lost money if you take a look at the dollars and cents. The animated musical fable about a wishing star that so many Disney characters have wished upon over the studio's century-long history failed to become the de facto choice for families around Thanksgiving. Yeah, it fell hard behind a biopic and a fucking prequel about a, franchise that nobody ever talked about after its theatrical run. Like, it's absolutely wild that it ended up there. Opened in third place with a dull $31.7 million over the 5-day. But let's actually, hey man, I want to run that back here real quick because I think that would be very interesting. I want to go with the 3-day because the 3 days, fairly accurate. Right, not even $20 million. But again, songbirds and snakes ended up taking the weekend. It's still got to get around to doing a full video on that. I'm still waiting for, Rachel Ziegler to gloat about how I ended up taking the weekend and there wasn't a drop off at all. Just give me a reason. Give me a reason, bitch. Come on now. Instead of recapturing the studio's magic, Wish joins a long list of underperforming 2023 tentpoles, such as The Marvels. Did a full breakdown on that one yesterday. If you're so inclined, please do check that out. Indiana Jones and the Derp of Derpstiny, which, oh lord, hundreds of millions. That was supposed to be the biggest bomb. And then Flash came out, or did that supersede Flash? Okay, no, Flash came out first, and then Dial of Destiny was like, hold my Bud Light, and then The Marvels is like, no, I'll take a shot of Absolute Vodka. That'll make more sense over the weekend. Haunted Mansion, everybody forgot that came out. That lost a lot of money as well, but it didn't quite have that same production budget. It didn't have no $300 million. Still had about 150. And Ant-Man and Quantumania, yes, that was supposed to be the low water mark. But remember, I still got that pulled up anyways. That was what, $400 million? Yeah, $476 million against a $250-300 million budget. Yeah, that's not great. That's not great either. That lost a few $100 million, but nowhere near as much as the Marvels or Wish is going to end up doing. This summer's Little Mermaid didn't completely flounder. Oh yeah, it treaded water. But then again, you could also stick the profit margin between Halle Berry's eyes and they wouldn't even touch either tear duct. But it's nowhere near the $1 billion threshold. Disney's prior live-action adaptations like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, that fucking Aladdin abortion surpassed with ease. And although Elemental... Do you guys know that Aladdin was directed by Guy Ritchie? Does that fucking make any sense at all? Anyways, and Lion King was Jon Favreau. But guys, he's going to save Disney Star Wars alongside Dave Filoni. Ugh. Elemental finished with $95 million globally. Much stronger than the disappointing opening weekend would have suggested. But yeah, it did a little bit better than, Pixar's previous release with Lightyear, which, Chris Evans, you're not a fucking movie star. Just get back to complaining and hitting all the leftist talking points on social media. Okay. Pixar hasn't, restored its former glory after audiences were trained to watch on Disney Plus. Yeah, you see, that's one of the first talking points that comes along. See, they're just straight spitting somewhat facts right there. Like, it's still regular mass media talking points, but no, people were trained to watch this stuff on Disney Plus because, according to our numbers, you can't independently verify any of them. Oh, everybody turned out and the Little Mermaid was a swim away hit. Sure thing. Disney's only unmitigated success of 2023 was Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which opened in May to a healthy... Well, no, it also had a pretty disastrous opening weekend. Let's keep that a buck. But it had good legs and continued to turn a profit like old Marvel properties used to. But again, that was all on word of mouth. Healthy word of mouth, something associated with Disney that you're not likely to see. And given the fact that it was marketed heavily as James Gunn's final outing in the MCU before he takes off to be futured endeavored, because they don't want to name drop DC specifically, but you guys loved all of those Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And knowing that, it missed out on that easy $1 billion if Phase 4 didn't shit all over the floor and rub it on its face. Or at least, to end on a series high, because 2017's Guardians of the Galaxy, still stood as the high watermark at $863 million, not adjusted for inflation. Without a runaway blockbuster in the bunch, it is the first time since 2014, except for 21 and 20, that Disney hadn't launched a $1 billion release. That is wild. But hey guys, if you just leave the Marvels in the theaters until, 2030 rolls around, it might make $1 billion. The unthinkable reality of Disney, after one of the most remarkable stretches of sheer box office domination, it reached zenith in 2019 when it had seven studio releases, including Avengers Endgame. I'm pretty sure, does that still... No, right, because stupid ass Avatar, which nobody remembers at all. I remember watching it. I don't remember anything about it, but yeah, no, I remember falling asleep and waking up at least twice during that pile of shit. But I think, yeah, it ended up getting released ahead of Way of Water, which is what, like the third or fourth best. It's so, that is such a fucking phenomenon in all of cinematic history. There's ultimately, when, you know, all of those fucking meandering films eventually do get released, there's going to be studies done on something to make so much money and have no cultural impact. It's so wild. It's the fast food of movies. It's like, I'm hungry, I need something to eat. It'll satiate me, but it's never going to be the first thing that I go for. It's so wild. But Avengers Endgame, yeah, without a re-release, $2.8 billion at the box office. It made over two, okay? Like, that was out there. Oh yeah, The Lion King hit $1 billion globally. Oh right, you also don't want to mention the fact that, you know, The Rise of Skywalker, you know, episode 9, speaking about, you know, something else like Aman Vellani was talking about yesterday, you know, everything ended up on a high point. Well, you would have thought that Star Wars Episode 9 would have ended on a high point, but it ended up making less than Episode 8, which was disastrous in and of itself, and half of what Episode 7 ended up making. But don't worry about that. Everything's fine over at Lucasfilm. They just promoted Dave Filoni. He's great. But this year has hinted Disney is no longer has the Midas touch at the box office. What else made $1 billion in 2019 for Disney? Did Aladdin come out in 2019? Probably. Oy, oy, oy. Disney set an impossibly high bar for itself in the 2010s. Oh yeah, right. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with the writing quality. It has nothing to do with them thoroughly injecting the message. Okay, no, it has nothing to do with that, right? They just set their expectations way too high. They were putting out films that way too many people liked, and we can't, you know, actually pander to our audience. We can't, you know, provide them anything that they want. We can't provide, you know, logical, thought-provoking fan service to bring them back and to actually leave them on a high note, to leave them enjoying and thinking, you know, well on their experience at the theaters. No. We need to sit down and have a lecture. A conversation about modern day topics. I'm sorry. I was here for a tights and capes film. Oh no, sorry. We need to talk about intersectional feminism. Okay, fine. I'm not coming back to this shit. Where did everybody go, you bunch of bigots? Case in point, Avatar: The Way of Water, which Disney released at the end of 2022. Yeah, kind of, sort of, but you take a look at those distribution rights, and yeah, they ended up acquiring them, but they also didn't end up taking that title when it was all said and done. I guess all of the revenue off of that one, right? The 7th highest grossing domestic release of this year with $283 million. So yeah, that ended up creeping over the top of it, surpassing the majority of the studio's would-be blockbusters. Ant-Man 3, $214 million. Indiana Jones 5, $174 million. Elemental, $154 million. The Marvels, $76, and don't anticipate that going much higher than $80. And then Haunted Mansion, $67. Yo! As movie theaters business recover from the pandemic, well, no, the governments that shut everything down, but still allowed the people making the films to go and do their job and work, but not any of the lowly plebs that are out there. Make sure you vote Democrat again. And every studio has been forced to contend with the shrinking global box office. Why is that? Because there are still big hits that are out there. Take a look at some of the independent fare that's out there, the lower budget stuff turning massive profit, but no. All of these overstuffed, under-delivered projects, well, they aren't just turning that type of magic that you guys built up off of, check this out, a long track record of at least enjoyable, if not great films. Take a look at what's happening at Marvel, and specifically what's going on with Disney Studios proper. There used to be a point in time where it was banger after banger after banger after banger, but now, well, you decided instead of telling a faithful story with good messaging, reliable messaging, like archetypal stories, not current day politics, okay, over the top of it, telling a good quality story about a princess, or even just, you know, having a good girl boss story like Mulan, but at the end of the day, you know, it actually had some good feminine story points to hit in that one as well. And then you can just reverse that to either the Disney live action version of Mulan, which is an abomination, or I would also peg it probably right at the point in time where they started to champion, hey, look, we have our first black Disney princess. It's like, yeah, okay, but tell me about, you know, Princess and the Frog. You go ahead. No, she's the first black princess. okay, it's still a fucking cartoon. You just drew her with, a different pencil. It's like, dude, what the fuck is so important about that? Okay. I always go back to the example. It's like, oh my God, this representation shit's important. Well, there was that other clip that went viral earlier this year, the little black girl who seen the remake of Little Mermaid on the screen, seen the trailer of it, and it's like, that's not Ariel. Ariel has red hair. Ariel's white. She didn't like that shit at all. And then again, if you want to think, or if you want to know that whole push for you need to see yourself represented on the screen is absolute bullshit, just go. If you have a black friend that's out there, ask him to name his top 5 favorite Dragon Ball Z episodes, characters, what's his favorite arc. He'll be able to detail every single thing about it. It's fucking wild, okay? Because guess what? If you tell a good story, if you tell something that's compelling, if you tell something that's universally and intrinsically masculine or feminine, designed and pointed at those specific audiences, you have a hit on your hands. It's really not that difficult because, yeah, as they're pointing out here as well, yeah, this whole shrinking global box office, Warner Brothers had a hit on their hands with Barbie. As fucking trash as that shit was, as infused with the message as Barbie was, guess what? It was also unabashedly feminine. Might have been as, unabashedly feminist, but Greta Gerwig couldn't write her way out of a wet paper bag. So people went and checked that out. Oh yeah, and Universal's the Super Mario Brothers movie? Exactly. You took a well-established, the most famous franchise in all of video games, something that has been ubiquitous with society for, 40 years? The guts of 40 years? And yet didn't shit on the characters? And it made $1.3 billion. And Oppenheimer, you had Christopher Nolan, somebody who has, guess what, a long track record of success, okay? He released the film. And it sniffed $1 billion when it had absolutely no reason to. You can still release a film. It can be wildly successful. Gone are the days where you could just go ahead and slip something into the massive hype cycle, like what happened with the first Captain Marvel film, like what happened with Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second one in that trilogy, where you can just artificially inflate everything because you're told that you need to go see those 2 films in order for Endgame to make sense. Until there's another scenario like that built up with, I don't know if the ultimate end goal for the Nintendo Cinematic Universe is to build to some sort of Super Smash Brothers film. But unless we get that, when they start to have interconnectivity between, a sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie, whatever's happening with that Sony produced, live action Legend of Zelda film. Okay, if they announce something with Donkey Kong, okay, they want to do something with Metroid, which that seems just the easiest fucking thing in the world. And if they want to, okay, they're building up to something and they want to sneak in a fucking Mr. Game & Watch spinoff, okay, it'll end up doing better than it would have all alone. But as we're seeing right now with the Marvels, shit ain't fucking working over there. And when was the last time we seen anything in the theaters in regards to Star Wars? Yeah, back in that in the halcyon days of 2019. And when is the next time we're going to see anything come out from Disney? Well, she's going to be about 6 months from now. It's going to be a long old road to hoe. But do you think Disney's going to take stock of where they're at right now, do a little bit of course correction, then hopefully entertain the audience? Oh, it's fucking Disney. Of course they're not. They're always going to learn the wrong fucking lessons. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.